earn those Aussie dollars, those US dollars, and then live off the income in Malaysia for a better lifestyle today. How does it compare to other jurisdictions and countries, but the secret option, which might be an alternative?
I'm very excited to share this part. This is known as the Labuan Director's Visa.
Are you tired of the cost of living crisis and ready to build a better life overseas? For years, I've shown you why Malaysia is such an incredible option to live, but how do you actually stay here for the long term? Today, I'm back with Nigel Lo, an Australian qualified lawyer born in Sarawak. Welcome back to the challenge.
Thank you so much for having me again.
He's a relocation expert helping Westerners and Aussies move to Malaysia the right way. In this video, we're breaking down everything you need to know about the MM2H visa in 2025, and we'll also be covering a secret alternative that might be an even better option. We'll cover the real costs, the lifestyle options, the risks, and whether it's worth it for you. So if you're serious about moving to Malaysia, Nigel and I can help you do it with confidence. Let's get into it. Nigel, why should foreigners and expats consider relocating to Malaysia in 2025 and beyond?
I think if you look at Western countries as a whole, many people in the past migrated to places like Australia, the UK to look for greener pastures. I would say in the same boat, I moved to Australia in order to educate myself, to read law at Murdoch University and to find a pathway to be able to stay long term, to be able to take advantage of the strong economy that Australia had at the time. But I think we're seeing an issue right now where cost of living, the rental crisis, whether you're in Australia or any Western democratic country, it has become so burdensome for ordinary Australians and British and Americans to survive, because it's not about just even being wealthy, it's now about surviving. I think that there is an opportunity for Westerners to migrate to, whether it's a Southeast Asian country or just a country with a lower currency. That in itself is a travel hack, and I'm sure it's something that most people watching this video would be absolutely familiar with if you're considering even moving to a country like Malaysia. I think one of the biggest lures to Malaysia is the fact that you could essentially earn money in Australian dollars, American dollars, British pounds, and live like a king in Malaysia. So it is really appealing because it is a life hack.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and I want to share my experience. So I moved to Malaysia from Sydney a bit over 3 years ago, and it's just shown me a completely different lifestyle and what's possible. It doesn't have to be Malaysia, it could be Southeast Asia, it could be any other country where you're treated better and where you like the lifestyle. So the factors I like about it here, I prefer the weather, it's hot, it's tropical, it's humid, I love it. I love the people, I like the mix of the different cultures, I like that you have everything available here, it's affordable luxury. Again, if you're earning in AUD, USD, you can bring that money in and then get more bang for your buck. So that's what it's about.
Let's say you're an Australian, right? A Malaysian nasi lemak would cost about $3 for like a big one with like curry chicken and everything. So you can really see that it is so much easier and more affordable to live in a country where the currency may not be as strong, but at the same time, it's not a country that's going downhill. It's a country that's actually growing.
It's a growing country. It's on the right trajectory. And other important factors like schooling and healthcare, I've been so impressed. We did a tour at Nigel's Lodge School, International School in Sarawak. So Malaysia is very diverse. You've got choices from the low end to the high end. You can pick and choose the lifestyle that you want, and it gives you a lot more flexibility that a lot of people are struggling with in the West, in Australia, where they're being priced out of just basic necessities.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And one of the things I think for a lot of expats to consider is that Malaysia also has really good healthcare system. I understand we've got Medicare in Australia. I'm a permanent residency myself. I'm on that visa, and I'd say that one of the things that I found so appealing about Australia is the fact that they really look after their citizens in terms of Medicare, looking after the people who are struggling. I think the governments are trying their best to give people a fair go, but still sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes circumstances and economic factors that are outside of the government's control, they still creep in and they still continue to suffocate a lot of hardworking, honest Australians. And I think it's not a bad thing to consider relocating, in the sense that, if you take a look at what Jack has done, it's the right thing to do, because ultimately, it's about your mental health. It's about you looking for new pastures and just going where you're treated best, especially if you've got a family to look after, you've got people to take care of, and you want your kids to have the best education, the best healthcare, and Malaysia has it all.
So let's talk about specifically where MM2H fits into this relocation and potentially your lifestyle. So I'm 30, I moved here for work. So I've been working on a work visa for the last few years. And when you start looking at options to stay long term, there are only a few. You can live here as a tourist, you can go in and out, you can be here working in Malaysia, or if you want to consider long-term, MM2H is your starting point and how to consider actually getting up to a 10-year visa. Now, the requirements are different. It's designed for, I would say, retirees. And the idea is that instead of hustling until you're 60 or 70 in Australia, that potentially there will be many of you in your 40s, maybe if you have a young family, who are actually in a position to relocate to Malaysia and retire, or at least work remotely and use the assets that you've built in the Western country, and then earn those Aussie dollars, those US dollars, and then live off the income in Malaysia for a better lifestyle today, now. Right? So I think that's the appeal. Is that what you're seeing in terms of the clients and the people interested in MM2H?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who have come to Malaysia have fallen in love with the country. They've chosen to bring their families here. I mean, Jack and I met a teacher from Lodge School. He's a British man, and he has been working at Lodge for quite a few years. What brought him to Sarawak? I mean, Sarawak is, a more, I'd say, regional part of Malaysia. It's not the big city like KL. And the reason, if you ask him why, sometimes the most common answer is love. They meet someone, they fall in love with someone, and they've decided that, I'd rather stay here than bring my loved ones back to the UK, because life seems to be a lot easier, a lot more fun, a lot more relaxed in a place like Sarawak.
That's right. You could get married and you could get a visa here that way, but otherwise MM2H is the way to go. So let's talk about the specific programs and the requirements as of the time filming this. So there are two main programs. There's the main Malaysian MM2H, and then Sarawak, where you're from, has its own MM2H regional visa as well. So let's talk about briefly what the differences are and what options there are available, because there are different levels to the MM2H visa as well.
Yes, I think there are different considerations. When it comes to MM2H, you want to see what your long-term goals are. I think before you even apply for an MM2H visa, due to the cost of that visa and the different subclasses, which all cost significant amounts of money and require you to put, at least 6 figures in a deposit, I think it is definitely something that you will need to consider. And if your long-term plans are to stay in Malaysia but not earn an income in Malaysia, whereby you're actually choosing to spend your retirement funds or invest in Malaysia or set up a business, then MM2H could work. But ultimately, it's better if you consider what your plan is in the future, whether you're coming for work. If you're coming for work, another visa might be more appropriate for you.
Yeah, so for MM2H itself, we'll put links or the latest on the screen, but you are going to typically have a term deposit. You're going to have a fixed deposit that is 6 figures in Malaysia as proof of funds, and you're also going to have to purchase property under the main agreement in Malaysia. So the minimum price for KL, for example, is going to be 1 million ringgit for the property. Yep. So this is not a low-end visa. It is a serious commitment for someone and your family, but then you do get the benefits of being able to reside in Malaysia legally for up to 10 years. So what do you think about the requirements? And also, we should touch on that the requirements have increased over the last few years since COVID. So it's not exactly what it used to be, but at the same time, I see that as part of Malaysia's development. We're attracting higher quality people, and Malaysia wants people like you to actually thrive here in the long term. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think so. The MM2H visa was a lure for a lot of foreigners to come in the beginning, when Malaysia needed to bring in more talent and wanted to encourage more people to spend time and contribute to the economy in Malaysia, whether it's through spending power or just being able to start enterprises here. The MM2H visa has certainly become more onerous in terms of who can qualify for the visa. They have made it so that very high net worth individuals would easily qualify for this visa, and the reason so is because they want predominantly investors to be spending money in the Malaysian economy. It would not serve the Malaysian government's interest if they had just anyone come to Malaysia to just try to stay long term. In my view, I think that it's not a bad thing to even encourage people who are not high net worth individuals to come to Malaysia, but I think the government has made that discretion on their own because they are more focused in bringing in more high quality migrants into the country who might be capable of contributing, not just in terms of spending power, but in terms of entrepreneurial and enterprise building and job creation in Malaysia.
Yeah, you're right. And I do think if we look at it, the big picture, I do think it is very reasonable personally. So the typical Aussie family, look at the median net net worth in Australia. It's some of the highest in the world. I know people, they're sitting on $1 million, $2 million houses. They're still going to work. They're burning all this money. They're paying the taxes, but they're sitting on this big asset and they're not using it effectively to generate the lifestyle that you want. You could sell that house, take the equity, put it into MM2H, and you could retire and live a better lifestyle in Malaysia. It is a real option, and that might be you, even if you don't consider yourself high net worth in Australia. For someone like that, it is feasible.
Absolutely. I mean, think about a property in Western Australia. I mean, I live in Perth, spent 2 months there every year before I come back for a month. Look, single, small, very average house, single story, dated, years old. In Malaysia, the similar house like that would be significantly lower in terms of value, but in a place like Perth, you could get that house for about $750,000, $800,000, and it's not even a flashy house. But that is the situation that Australians and property investors find themselves in. You pay a lot of money and you don't really get the best bang for your buck. Imagine if you took that money, $750,000 or whatnot, turn it into ringgit and invest in a property in Kuala Lumpur, you would get a penthouse easily. A luxury property, the highest range. In Australia, you barely get by. You barely are able to afford a property that would fit the desired criteria of most Australians, white picket fence and all that. But it's not an extraordinary house. It's not a luxury mansion, not even close. It's a very ordinary property. So in terms of value, you get a lot more value investing in property, especially in emerging countries like Malaysia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to keep perspective and look at the big picture. Yeah, the average home in Sydney now is 1.2 million. So that will easily cover your MM2H visa cost. So MM2H is the long-term visa for Malaysia. How does it compare to other jurisdictions and countries around the world? Now, you're not buying citizenship here. You're actually buying residence for an extended period. How do you think it compares with other Southeast Asian countries, and why is Malaysia still appealing for this type of visa?
Well, I think this is a question that I'd like to actually take the microphone from Jack. See, Jack has traveled throughout Southeast Asia. Before he made the decision to come to Kuala Lumpur and to live here long term, he actually traveled throughout Asia to find the best place to actually settle down. So I think he should be the best person to actually answer this question. So there you go.
Okay, Nigel. Well, it's an interesting topic, and you're right. I've looked at a different of these countries, and you're going to have positives and negatives to every single one of them. So why is Malaysia specifically so favorable and so interesting in this?
Compared to Thailand, Bali, and all the other countries that you visited, why did you choose Malaysia?
Right, so try going to Thailand, right? Thailand's great, but it's different to Malaysia. You're going to have language barriers there. You're going to have, the visas just change, right? There's a Thailand elite visa, which is again a sort of a pay for play. You can do that, but you can't work there. You can't have that criteria. Thailand has traditionally been a hotspot for expats and foreigners to go there, but things are changing. Now they've got the DTV visa, the digital nomad visa, which could be a favorable option as well. There are other options in Southeast Asia. We're not just saying Malaysia's your only one, but if you want something that's more developed, so I would say that's the difference. So Malaysia's actually developed their visa program. This is something you can trust, and it compares favorably with countries like Singapore, which is going to be much more expensive, much more exclusive to be able to get this type of residency there, and also Hong Kong, again, same thing, much more expensive. So Malaysia, you're kind of in the middle. Vietnam is up and coming, but again, you've got language barriers there. There isn't even a proper retirement visa in Vietnam, and you can get these business visas, but again, it's something that's up and coming. Is it fully trustworthy yet? I don't know. It's yet to be seen. So Malaysia's sort of in that sweet spot where you've got an English-speaking country that compares just fine with Hong Kong and Singapore, but it's also a cheaper entry point, and you don't have those language barriers or the cultural barriers that you can come to. You can move your family here, you can have the international schools, you can have everything at an affordable price point. So I would encourage you to look at all your options, but when it comes to MM2H, if you're serious about Malaysia, it's a pretty favorable program that you can be confident in. All right, so as an Australian, we like things to be in order, and we do worry about rule changes, and I'm sure other Western countries are the same. We want to be able to trust the system. So the MM2H visa has undergone changes, and as we mentioned before, it's for mostly positive reasons. But can we be confident that any changes in the future are not going to retroactively somehow impact our application and what we've been given today, if you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, the MM2H application that you lodge, that is the application that will bind you. So the terms of that application to which you are accepted on will continue until your visa expires. I think that system is also the same in Australia in terms of their their visa system. If you're on a particular visa, they will honor the terms and the obligations that the government owes to you when they grant you that visa. So I think certainly in terms of government changing, the government will always be interested in bringing in more high net worth individuals, foreigners to Malaysia. And I think that there is good reasons to believe that due to the recent stability of the current federal government, we do not expect any significant changes with respect to governments. The rule of law is still quite strong. The courts relatively clean these days. The judiciary, had a bad rap back in the day, but now it's being cleaned up. We've got really, really impartial judiciary right at the top, especially in the federal court. And I think that is something to be lauded because we have come a long way from cleaning up the judiciary from back in the day, and now we've got a really strong legal system that is quite respectful of individual rights and freedoms. And I think that we can certainly take advantage of that fact and believe that Malaysia will not change significantly. And if any visa that you're on at the moment, I think they will respect and continue to maintain and uphold those obligations to you.
Yeah, and I would say personally, Malaysia is certainly on the right path. I mean, they've had troubles in the past, as a lot of countries have. And in Southeast Asia, yes, that you are surrounded by these other developing nations. And I would say Malaysia is on the cusp of becoming a developed nation. It's right there, and now everything looks like it's on the right track. As you said, with the stable government, things are moving in the right direction. You can tell they really do value expats, foreigners, and foreign capital. Yes. There's a reason they want these people to come here to benefit Malaysians as well. So Nigel, one of the requirements for MM2H, as far as I'm aware, is that you have to buy property as part of the deal. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is that across the board? Does everyone on MM2H have to buy property? And what are the requirements? As far as I understand, different states and areas of Malaysia have different minimum purchase requirements for property.
Yeah, generally in terms of MM2H, if you're not taking the state that I'm from into consideration, I think in terms of MM2H, you do absolutely need to buy property. Usually it's in the six figures. Some states it's even seven figures, but you do need not only to put down a significant deposit, you will also need to purchase a property of a significant value as well. Different states treat MM2H differently. In Sarawak, where I come from, I'm more familiar with the MM2H over there. There is a requirement of 600,000 in terms of the property value that you need to purchase if you're in certain age brackets. So there are essentially three age brackets that you need to be on, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so in terms of the three different age brackets, let's talk about the first one. From age 30 to 39, you will need to put down a 600,000 purchase in terms of a property, a minimum 600,000 value in terms of the property price itself. However, there is an exemption. If you are coming for long-term medical treatment, or if your children are expat children studying Sarawak, like in Lodge School, which we visited recently, then you could essentially get waived for that requirement. That requirement could be waived, all right? But again, individual circumstances do vary, so we suggest that you speak to an expert like us in order to give you that guideline. The second age bracket is 40 to 49. Not the best age bracket to be in, because regardless of whether you have children studying or whether you're coming for long-term medical treatment, you still need to acquire a property with a minimum value of 600,000 regardless. Then the last bracket, my favorite one, 50 plus. So if you're over the age of 50 years and you are coming to Malaysia seeking an MM2H from the Sarawakian perspective, there is no other requirements. You do not need to send your children to school here. You do not need to come for medical treatment. As long as you have a significant deposit, the required deposit, you do not need to purchase a property with a minimum value. All right, so that's really important. The three different age brackets, because you are treated very, very differently.
Okay, Nigel, so Sarawak MM2H is really, if you look at it big picture, has slightly lower requirements, but if you get the Sarawak MM2H, you can live, if you choose to, in the rest of Malaysia. There's just a requirement that you need to be in Sarawak for a certain period of the year, right?
30 days only.
30 days, and Sarawak is a great place, and you'd want to be there for 30 days anyway. So this is a very reasonable option, and if you're 50 plus, you don't even have to potentially buy property. Correct. So that sounds like a great deal, and that's a real good retirement option for someone in that position. You could seriously do that, and having visited Sarawak, you can watch the video series. Absolutely loved it. It's a very good option.
Absolutely. I think Sarawak is a great option. 30 days is the minimum requirement that you need to live in Sarawak. But if you prefer the big city life in KL, nothing's stopping you from, living your life in KL predominantly. But from what I've heard and experienced and speaking to so many of the different expat audiences that come to, Malaysia or Sarawak in particular, everyone falls in love with that state. Once they come, they enjoy living in Sarawak. They enjoy the peacefulness, the fact that there's so much nature and greenery. It's really, really environment friendly. And I think that those people who have come to Sarawak have chosen to live in Sarawak long term instead of even moving to a big city like KL. I've heard many expats from Sarawak tell me that they have lived in KL. They find the life a little bit too hectic. The traffic is a little bit painful to navigate, and Sarawak literally gives them the best of all worlds because the traffic's good. The worst traffic jam is 15 minutes. It's nothing.
Yeah, that's right. There is a very real cultural difference and demographic difference as well. So if that's something you're worried about, Sarawak might even be better for that reason too. Very diverse. People really do come together. It's very chill. Now, the MM2H visa is either 5 years renewable or up to 10 years if you get the higher level one. So what are the requirements of renewal and what are the chances of non-renewal?
I think if you've already gotten a first application granted and you have not committed any significant crimes against the country, you should have no issue with a renewal process. I do have to at least emphasize that when it comes to Sarawak, my hometown, your renewal process comes in 2 blocks. You are granted a 10-year visa, but broken up into 5-year renewal blocks with an option for another 5-year. But you must, within 6 months before the first block expires, you need to put in your application for the next 5 years. All right, so this is something that it's not common in other states, but in Sarawak, you do get an optional renewal for another 5 years.
Yeah, so really it's just a practical check that you're still meeting the requirements of the original visa, and you should be if you're living here long term under those conditions anyway. So I don't think renewal is something to worry about. The Malaysian government's going to want you to renew. They're going to want you to stay, so they have every intention to make it a smooth process. Another one that comes up is the fixed deposit. So people are putting money in the bank. There are conditions where you can access that money, right?
Most of the times, the government will require you to keep that monies there. They want the capital to remain in Malaysia and they want an incentive for you to keep staying there. So the deposit, in many occasions, actually you can't remove it, but certain circumstances you might be able to, but you'll need to obviously justify it and get approval from the government.
Yeah, so think about it as a way to just have some of your savings there, earning some interest, and that's your backstop here in Malaysia if you need it. Another common question you guys have is why MM2H? How does it compare to other options with living in Malaysia? So I reckon you've got 4 main options when it comes to visas in Malaysia. As an Australian or a Westerner, you can get a very favorable tourist visa here. You can go in and out. You can spend 3 months at a time. Obviously, you're not living here. You're a tourist, but it's a good option for someone you want to wet your feet in Malaysia, experience a lot of it, or be a regular visitor. That's definitely a way to go. If you're looking to relocate your family or relocate your tax residency even, or your structure to Malaysia, you're going to want to consider something more permanent like the digital nomad visa, the Dirantau visa, which is 2-year, 1-year renewable visa for remote workers particularly. So if you meet the requirements, that's another way to live in Malaysia. But there's also another really interesting option as well. We call it the secret option, which might be an alternative for you if you have a business that you're looking to relocate for Malaysia. Can you tell us a little bit about that one, Nigel?
I'm very excited to share this part. This is known as the Labuan Director's Visa. So, nestled in the island of Borneo, or just on the outskirts of Sabah, lies a little island that isn't a state in Malaysia. It is a federal jurisdiction. It's a federal territory called Labuan. It is basically a territory that is owned by the federal Malaysian government. They are the ones that set the tax regulations, the asset protection rules, the banking and privacy laws, all of that. The Labuan company, I consider this to be the jewel of Southeast Asia because I consider Labuan companies to be far superior than companies in other offshore jurisdictions such as the Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Hong Kong, Singapore. All of these jurisdictions are great. They are what we call the legacy offshore. I think they are being scrutinized more and more. But then we've got Labuan, which is what I consider to be Asia's best kept secret. Setting up a company in Labuan gives you unprecedented and unparalleled advantages as opposed to setting up a regular limited liability company in Malaysia. A Labuan company is so powerful that it allows shareholders, directors, and beneficial owners to essentially keep all their privacy, keep all of their assets away from unnecessary scrutiny. Labuan has one of the most powerful privacy laws in the world. They are not allowed to reveal any of your private information without your consent, And even if the inquirer to Labuan is a government regulator authority, they will be turned away if they come asking questions about you without your consent. That is how powerful Labuan is. It is one of the most powerful in terms of asset protection, also because it is not a party to a very important treaty. There is a treaty called the Reciprocal Enforcement Judgment Treaty. So let's say you decide you're going to set up a company in Singapore. Everybody loves setting up an offshore company in Singapore until they find out how devastating that decision actually is. Because if they get sued in a country like Australia, New Zealand, US, that judgment can be registered immediately in Singapore. And if you have a bankruptcy order in Australia that is registered in Singapore, it becomes immediately valid. Labuan does not have such a treaty with these countries. What that means is if there is a court order from a Western country that needs to be enforced, they will need to start the entire process again because Labuan does not recognize any court orders from any jurisdictions like Australia, US, Canada. So that's very, very useful. Now, what the benefits, talking about visas and MM2H, the true benefit of Labuan comes in the Labuan Director's Visa, a little known visa that no one talks about. What is the Labuan Director's Visa? It is a 2-year visa that is guaranteed to anyone who is successful in setting up an offshore company and an offshore bank account in Labuan. The visa is 2 years and it can be renewed for as long as you wish, and it is, to me, the better option to MM2H because you get a company, a powerful offshore structure, an impenetrable superstructure that no one can touch, in addition to a 2-year renewable visa. Again and again, you can keep renewing it as long as you maintain your Labuan company every single year. That, in my view, is a better option to MM2H, where you have to buy property, you have to stay in a minimum number of days, you need to put down a significant deposit. When it comes to Labuan Director's Visa, you can live in anywhere in Malaysia. You can live in any state in Malaysia, even though your visa is a Labuan Director's Visa. So in essence, you could spend the funds to set up one holding company where you're going to park all of your assets and use that company to apply for your Labuan Director's Visa. So if there is a better option than an MM2H, which is, I can tell you right now, is the Labuan Director's Visa, it is a no-brainer. You get a company, and on top of a company, you get a bank account, and you get a 2-year visa. You don't get any of that with an MM2H, and it is way more expensive to go for an MM2H.
Very good, Nigel. Yeah, guys, I wanted to present that, and it's very important because that is a real alternative to MM2H, and you guys are not specifically wanting to get MM2H. You're wanting the best solution, which for you might very well be Labuan. And I know that sounds complicated. I know there was a lot to go over there, and I know you may not be, a big business owner or think that you need to, go into all these complexities, but it is a real alternative. Once you get it, it is a no questions asked sort of thing. You have the director visa, you can live in Malaysia, and you can have your money here with a bank account, which is what you're after. And Nigel and I did a full video breaking down all the questions that you could have about Labuan, how you can go about setting it up, and why he's the expert to help you do it, and how he has the connections and knows the people to be able to set this up for you so that you don't have to worry about all the details and all the complexities, right? Absolutely. And even if you are doing MM2H, there are going to be complexities with that. You're going to need someone to help you with it. We are talking about serious amounts of money, and it's a big life decision, which is why it's important to talk to the experts. It's not really something that you can do it yourself, right? I mean, you're going to want to enroll an expert. So why do people come to professionals like you to be able to do the MM2H or the Labuan visa?
I think the most important is compliance. People are scared. They are afraid of being in breach of the ATO's rules. If you're in Australia, HMRC, if you're in the UK, these regulators are no nonsense. They will come after you and they will take you for your money, and they will teach you a lesson very, very quickly if you breach their regulations. Yeah. Where solicitors and agents like ourselves come in, and our job is to help you exit in the most compliant way, where you can at least sleep at night knowing that you've done the right thing.
And even just doing the application itself with all the documents, I mean, would you rather do that yourself, or you'd rather an expert handle it for you? Because there's nothing worse, I can tell you personally, of getting rejected or getting the documents back, asking for more. It's a hassle. So outsource it to someone who knows what they're doing, and they've done it for other clients successfully many, many times before. So if you're interested, you've made it to this point of the video, what is the first step someone can take to getting one of these visas, whether it's MM2H or Labuan?
Yeah, I think one of the things you need to figure out before you even make contact with an expert is to figure out what your long-term plan is. Are you coming to Malaysia just to try out the place? Or are you coming here because you already know that Labuan is the jurisdiction that you intend to set your new business up for good? It really depends where you are at. And the best thing to do if you're unsure is to book a call with Jack or myself, and we'll be able to take you through and answer your questions.
Yeah, so that's the starting point. There is no be-all, end-all for everyone. You need to consider your circumstances, what you're looking for. And yes, I would encourage you to talk to us. We'll give you our honest answer, whether it's right for you, whether it's not right for you, because I want to deliver the best results for my viewers and people watching, and I want to change lives.
Yes.
And I've been able to do that from subscribers watching, and we've been able to see people go through the transformation and live better in Malaysia. So that's what I want for you as well. So if you're serious about building a better life in Malaysia and escaping the cost of living crisis in the West, we're here to help you. Nigel has the legal and local expertise, and I'm here to help you from an Aussie perspective, how I made the change in terms of lifestyle differences, cultural differences, and anything else you need a hand with. Links are in the description. You can book a call with me, and I have my email address there as well. So shoot us an email. I'll set you up with Nigel. We can have a chat and get you started on your way to a better life. Subscribe for more videos about living smart in Asia. Nigel, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor.
And we will see you in the next one.
If you try, you just